After the collapse of the Italian front at Caporetto, the Italian troops retreated in haste to avoid being surrounded, encircled, and completely crushed against the coast. During the general withdrawal of troops from Friuli, several military companies were sacrificed to cover the retreat of other units. The Italian commanders began to consider the possibility of forming a new defensive line on the massive Monte Grappa, located near the plateau of Asiago, on the river Piave, in order to eventually arrive at the Adriatic.
After the retreat from Friuli following the defeat of Caporetto, Italian troops adjusted themselves on a new defensive line which greatly shortened the length of the front. The Italians then went to fight fierce battles for the remainder of 1917 and throughout 1918 on these positions, which had already been identified for some time to be used in the event of an emergency.
Breaking the Italian Monte Grappa and Piave line would certainly have allowed the Austrians to penetrate the Po Valley. In that event, the new line of defense would need to be organized to protect the Po. It was a line they did not want the Austrians to cross. Today, tourists can visit the tunnels carved into the limestone of Monte Grappa. It is an easy walk through a well-lit tunnel which leads to trenches dug into the summit.
For those who visit the positions of Cima Grappa, it is easy to understand that it was a dominant location on the summit. Under the shrine of the Grappa we visited today is a very long tunnel with several branches where several pieces of artillery were placed that pounded the valley below to counter the Austrian attacks.
Che battevano la vallata sottostante dove si sviluppavano gli attacchi austriaci.
Between December of 1917 and January of 1918, the Austrian and German attacks against this line were repulsed by the Italians in a last-ditch defense of the very last line of trenches.
After this battle, in Italian called the Battaglia d'Arresto, the German High Command recalled back to the Western Front the troops that had been supporting the Austrians in Italy.
This battle was the high tide mark of German and Austrian success. War fatigue, depleted resources from fighting on so many fronts, the devastating British blockade, and America's entry into the war left Germany and Austria unable to break this final Italian defensive line.
By the summer of 1918, it can be safely said that the inertia of the war turns in favor of the Entente powers. Germany had exhausted their forces with the repeated attacks that were continually thwarted by the Allied reserves. Now we have the Allied counteroffensive, and the war was heading towards the conclusion. Germany was exhausted.
Le controffensive alleate e la guerra si avviava verso la conclusione. La Germania era esausta.
On the Western Front, the British, French and Americans pushed through a massive offensive, while in Italy, the Piave battle broke the Austrian line. The Austrian Empire signed an armistice on the 4th of November 1918, while Germany followed suit a week later. Today, the battlefields and memorials scattered across the front lines are a reminder of the over 9 million soldiers who died in the tragedy of World War I.
Questo è un bosco dove ci sono tutti i morti della provincia di Treviso. Ci sono 2402 stele che sono messe qui in tutto il bosco, su di là ce ne sono tutte quante, e E questo bosco è un memoriale a ricordo dei nostri caduti che sono durante la guerra.